G'day, my name's Stuart. Welcome to my channel, and I've been doing a series of videos at the moment about this fish farm that we want to buy and convert it from a fish farm where the waste from the fish is just dumped into the environment to where we capture that waste and then use all the nutrients within it to grow a whole range of horticultural crops. It's more sustainable, it's more profitable, it's more resistant to the adverse effects of climate change. Massive potential from doing environmental good, or at least less harm. Massive potential as a business, but also we'll be able to produce a whole stack of food with a much smaller environmental footprint than is currently being done.
And I should say the best way to ensure that we get this, to demonstrate that these techniques are sustainable, to get people to change, is to make a stonking amount of money doing it. Try the number of people will convince to change farming methods because it's the right thing to do is about this big. But if we convince people you can make more money doing it this way, well, then we're in for some real change. That's the plan. None of this. Look, I am passionate about the environment, but we're only going to create lasting change if we make people money. That's the game. Play another game when you're a billionaire. Until you're a billionaire, you got to make people money.
One of the questions that's come up a few times now from potential investors who are interested in making some money but also care about the environment is, why are we going to be converting some of the farm to trout when trout are a carnivorous species? They require a very high protein diet sourced from fish meal, and trout being a salmonid species, or one of the salmon group of species, they also need high quantities of omega-3s and omega-6s from fish oil. That doesn't sound like a more sustainable option. Well, first thing, in sustainability, there's never a sustainable option. What you're doing is you're choosing a practical, less bad option over whatever's being done at the moment. And depending on the context of what's going on, that can change. So with trout, because they're a fish, because they're cold-blooded, they are more sustainable than other forms of animals, other species of animals that we currently feed to produce animal protein. If you compare their sustainability against things like chickens and pigs in particular, feedlot cattle, trout are more sustainable. And that makes them a good choice to farm now, not only because they're more sustainable, but also it's a practical choice because there's a market for trout. We can grow them, we can produce them, we can make money doing them. And if it's whatever you're doing environmentally, if you can't keep doing it, then it's not sustainable by definition. If you're not making money from it, then it's not going to be sustainable. However, people have still said, well, sure, why don't you grow an omnivorous species? Why don't you grow a herbivorous species? And the reality is, it's either not practical to do so, or it's not legal to do so. Now, some people who know a little bit about fish will say, oh, but what about silver perch? They're omnivorous, you could grow them. Well, you can, and yes, they are omnivorous, but it's not economic, it's not practical. Silver perch don't grow very quickly, and for a species, a farm animal, you need them to grow in order to make money, and silver perch just don't, so they're not a practical option. There are two excellent options which would be awesome. The problem is they're illegal. Now, what I'm hoping to do with this farm, what I just can't do at the moment, is create change. I've been working for years talking to people in the government, in the finance sector, in the agricultural industry, saying about this is such a simple thing to do. We integrate fish farming with horticulture. It's a no-brainer. Yet I've struggled to get traction. I'm hoping you guys are going to help me out with this farm, is that we'll make it happen, this farm, because it just makes sense from a business perspective. Most of the money we need is to cover the land, not setting up the business, so there's less financial risk, because there's collateral and so on. And we're getting closer. We're past the halfway point in terms of people who have said that funds will be committed. So that's brilliant. What I'm hoping in the future is that once we are selling fish in the market, once we are taking our salad greens and other crops to market, and once we're getting people coming to the farm and we can say, look, it's working, and look, it's making money, that we'll start to do it on a larger scale and we'll have more influence. And it's then that I'd love to talk to people about alternative species to trout, one of which would be carp. Another would be tilapia. Now, they are currently illegal. You are not allowed to have them in Australia. It's just a no-no. It's ridiculous because they're feral. They're already out there. They're not coming back. You know, there is no way we're going to get those fellas under control again. They're established. That's it. And so the continuing ban on having them, so to protect the environment in case they escape, is just stupid. But trying to explain that to a bureaucrat at the moment or a government minister at the moment, waste of time. But I'm hoping that in 5 or 6 years, we'll have some influence, we'll have some position where I'll be able to make that case and have people listen. And I think it's going to be easier in the future because the cost of living is going up pretty seriously. Cost of beef, lamb, chicken, pork, they're all going through the roof. We will be able to produce carp and tilapia for that matter, if we're doing it up north, a lot cheaper than those other forms of animal protein. Now, another reason to not even think about doing that now is that the market for carp is ridiculously small. There is a very small number of people who have come out from Europe and remember the old country and they remember eating carp back in Europe. There's a small, slightly larger number of Asian people who recognize carp as a perfectly good fish to eat. Every single time I've eaten carp, there has not been a hint of that reported muddy flavour to the carp. I've never tasted that in carp. I have tasted it in Murray cod, which I got from a farm up in New South Wales. It was very slight, but there was that muddy taste to it. And that muddy taste isn't a thing that's associated with fish, it's associated with water quality. And you often hear people talk about, carp are fine to eat if you get them and you put them in the bathtub for a while and keep them in there for a few days, a week, a month, and then they're fine. Now, I'm not saying those people are wrong, I just don't believe them, because those muddy flavors come from the metabolite of a bacteria that lives in mud. Mud actually doesn't taste like mud. Mud tastes like wet sand. But that flavor we associate with mud comes from these bacteria, and that bacteria gets absorbed into the fatty tissue of the fish. And it takes a long time for the metabolic processes of an animal to get rid of things that are contained with its fatty tissues. So what I think is happening is people are catching carp, they're keeping it in a bathtub for a few days, they're eating it, and it's fine. It would have been fine if they'd eaten it straight away. But they think they have to do this whole process. And there's no point at the moment fighting against that reputation that carp has. But in 5 years' time, maybe, with the cost of living going up and the cost of animal protein going through the roof, we'll be able to produce carp very cheaply compared to those other things because of what we can feed them, because they're so easy to breed, because they're so easy to grow. But for the moment, the best sustainable option we've got is trout. Except that's not quite true. But that's a topic for another video, which I'll be talking about in due course. So anyway, hope you found this interesting. Remember, please, that the primary reason that we're doing this, the reason I'm doing this is to make money. I've got to support a family. But please remember that your support in getting this farm off the ground is going to be crucial. We need those investors. We need people who can see the potential. The potential from being better for the environment is good and all, that's all nice and warm and fluffy and well done you. But really we need people who see the potential as a business, because that's what it comes down to. We've got to make money. And we're not going to, and even if your primary concern is the environment, you're not going to create lasting change unless you can demonstrate that this is the better way of doing it. and we will be able to produce trout with a lower cost of production than our competitors. The fish will be insulated from the adverse effects of climate change because of the way we farm the fish, and we'll have all those other income streams from the crops we're producing. So, if you're interested, get in touch. If you can't do it because you don't have the funds, well, spread the video around and help us find the people that can. And hopefully, in the near future, I'll be doing some of these videos from on the farm because I'll be there and we'll be starting to farm the fish. So, catch you guys later, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.
I don't know why I try and keep doing this. It's like filming with, you know, the animals around. Hey, don't chew on that. Grr.